Hello, everybody. Some people haven't made it across the bay yet, so one of the things we'll have to do is just hope for the best, because it's also the food. If you're not mentioned in this poem, it's not because you weren't important, it's only because we can only mention so many people. So in the pictures, as in the poem, we did the best we could. Okay, so please understand if you're not there, it's not because you weren't important. Okay, so this is Ode to Susan.
And can everybody hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. There's no way we could be confusing anyone else for our darling Susan. Warm, wonderful, wise, and dear, you had to be happy when Susan was near. In 1970, a hippie in the hate, Susan took a step which altered her fate. Going to glide for women's liberation, she met a friend who would be forever dear. This is where she met up with Roslyn, best friends forever, for 45 years.
Susan Spicer Fitzpatrick Benson. Each name refers to an era in her life. Susie Spicer is the name she was born to, daughter of Seal and Judge Sam. Fitzpatrick, the name for Michael, her first husband, a marriage which lasted a few years. Staying with Michael would have led to many tears. After leaving Michael, she became a Benson, choosing her mother's maiden name. No longer willing to be labeled as a wife, she stayed Benson for the rest of her life.
After a year in SF together, Fred and Roslyn moved away to Navajo Nation for a year to stay, far away from San Francisco in the hate. She and Michael took Amtrak to visit us. Susan, dressed as a hate fashion plate. Venturing to the snow in Colorado in her long granny dress, she also wore long underwear and a vest. Her first time in this cold, she chose to berate us. Why had we brought her to this world of snow and ice? But finally, Susan forgave us. Our apologies did suffice.
She returned to San Francisco, she and Michael soon to separate. But Susan didn't stay alone for long. Other men would share her fate. When we returned to Berkeley, we bought a house together, along with Larry and Rick, forming the Derby Street Collective. For a while, we really did click. Joining the radical psychiatry movement, Susan worked for their journal, IRT. Our motto was "the personal is political." Of each other, we were constantly critical. We struggled over issues of sexism, class, and race, but our Derby Street house was still a fun place.
Our daughter Nicole was born in '73, and Susan, her godmother, was happy to be. But nothing lasts forever in these turbulent days. The collective ended, and we each went our ways. Susan went to study cosmetology in a school of beauty to become a hairdresser, her longtime career. When she finished school, her course was clear. For many of us who had some hair, sitting in Susan's chair made us become more fair.
Her wit was as sharp as her scissors. She amused us all while she worked with her clippers. We all ended up looking our best, adding to our lives some welcome zest. While in beauty school, she bonded with McLean, and things for both of them would never be the same. A long-term partnership in life as well as work, a relationship that was full of quirk. Susan and McLean stayed together for the rest of Susan's life, an enduring deep connection. Only rarely was there strife. Non-romantic significant others was their label in a book of women's lives. A closer relationship than many who were lovers. The warmth of their connection still survives.
In school, she met Johnny Coleman, her husband for a very short time. They soon separated forever. Their relationship was never sublime. During this period, we each went our separate ways, each going through our own unique phase. Susan found 12 steps as a way of life, and while we recovered from political strife. We reconnected later after a few years apart, and our relationship together found a fresh start.
Joining us was our son Daniel, who was born during our breach, and she embraced him warmly. Happiness together was within our reach. Susan and McLean had a passion in common to help large-sized women look their very best. Says Who was the store they created, so plus-size women could be well-dressed. Pioneers in this movement to give large women flash, Susan was an example. She made a great splash. Susan was pretty and fat. She had great intent to provide large-sized clothing that didn't look like a tent. McLean and Susan saw it as their duty to show large-sized women their inner and outer beauty. Says Who seems to fit was their rallying cry. Their story remains open. We hope it will never die.
Susan didn't just love the human species. She loved another. You had to pick up their feces. Boris was her first canine love, a lovable black and white mutt, followed by her Dobermans 3. They all brought Susan great glee. D.O.G., that's actually D.O.G. D.O.G. was the first of the lot, followed by Gracie and Louise. As rescue dogs, they needed a lot. Primarily Susan did they please. She took them everywhere, in her car and her store. If they ever followed a command, we'd all fall to the floor.
Susan didn't live a simple life. She learned many lessons from conflict and strife. Through 12 steps and Abraham 2, she became the most positive person that we ever knew.
Swimming. Straining against Earth's strong gravity, Susan found it hard to feel free. In the water, she swam like a fish. She laughed and had fun. It was all she could wish. Weightless, in a different realm, she could move at will. Walking with her friends made it better still. Here at Hiller, she came most every day. Floating in the water made her cares go away.
While in recovery, she made a dear friend. Bruce, a.k.a. Brucey, was with her to the end. They enjoyed each other's company. Many hours together did they spend. They walked in the pool, shared interesting meals. He made her happy. That was the real deal. 15 years ago, she developed lymphoma, a scary and serious disease. She fought it with bravery and courage. She brought this cancer to its knees. For many years, she lived cancer-free and enjoyed life with passion and zest, getting wiser and stronger, loved and loving. Susan felt she was blessed.
In early September, Susan found it hard to breathe. She went to the ER, and her symptoms got relieved. Her diagnosis was scary, her cancer was back. This clearly sucked, and that is a fact. She bravely started treatment and hoped for the best. Even recurring cancer didn't destroy Susan's zest. She faced a world of pain. Her future was uncertain. Instead, her illness drew life's final curtain. And what blessing did Susan leave us as she reached the end? A legacy of loving kindness. Susan was a wonderful friend.
Susan was my very best friend, a beloved member of my family. We celebrated and commiserated life's ups and downs. After talking to her, I could barely frown. I hear her voice in my head every day, asking me, "How did you sleep? What are you reading? When can we get together to play?" She made me laugh. Her absence makes me cry. I never ever wanted to say goodbye. In truth, as Susan would say, things worked out for the best. Her suffering is over. We all miss her, I'm sure, but our memories of Susan will long endure.
There's no way we could be confusing anyone else for our darling Susan. Warm, wonderful, wise, and dear, You had to be happy when Susan was near.